Imagine waking up to news that a deadly gas cloud is about to engulf the Earth. And the only way to survive is by taking a mysterious pill. In 1910, millions of people believed exactly that. As Halley's comet approached, newspapers spread panic, scientists were misquoted, and con artists saw the perfect opportunity. Enter the anti-comet pill scam, a ridiculous yet terrifying moment in history when people spent their life savings on fake cures for a disaster that never came. But how did an astronomical event turn into one of the most bizarre scams of all time? And who made a fortune off fear? This is the story of how con artists exploited fear, sold fake cures, and made a fortune off a celestial event that posed no real danger. Let's unravel the strangest hoax you've never heard of. The Halley's Comet Panic, Science Meets Sensationalism. For centuries, Halley's Comet had been a source of both awe and superstition. First recorded in 240 BCE by the Chinese, it was later named after the English astronomer Edmund Halley, who correctly predicted its periodic return every 75 to 76 years. While previous sightings were often linked to omens, such as the Battle of Hastings in 1066, no event compared to the widespread hysteria of 1910. The fear stemmed from a misunderstanding of science. In 1910, astronomers had advanced tools like spectroscopy, which allowed them to analyze the chemical composition of celestial objects. In January of that year, astronomers detected cyanogen gas in the comet's tail, a toxic compound related to cyanide. Enter Camille Flammarion, a well-known French astronomer and popular science writer. Flammarion, who often blended science with mysticism, speculated that when Earth passed through the comet's tail, deadly gases could impregnate the atmosphere and possibly snuff out all life. This was a misinterpretation of actual science, as the gas was far too diffused to have any effect on Earth. However, once newspapers got hold of Flammarion's theory, the narrative exploded into a worldwide panic. The role of the media, fear sells. The early 20th century was a golden age of yellow journalism, sensationalized, often exaggerated reporting designed to sell newspapers. Headlines screamed, "Comet may kill all life, says scientist." End of the world. Scientists warn of poisonous gas cloud. Comet's deadly tail to engulf Earth. Mass panic ensues. Many articles misrepresented Flammarion's claims, twisting his speculation into certainty. Some papers even claimed that Pope Pius X had blessed the world in preparation for the apocalypse. In the absence of widespread scientific literacy, people believed what they read. Riots, prayers, and doomsday cults emerged across the world. Some religious groups saw the comet as a harbinger of the Second Coming, while others feared it would trigger natural disasters or plagues. But where there is fear, there is opportunity. The birth of the anti-comet pill scam. Sensing a golden business opportunity, fraudsters sprang into action. Across the US, Europe, and beyond, entrepreneurs and con artists began selling so-called anti-comet products. These included anti-comet pills advertised as a cure for comet poisoning. These pills were often nothing more than sugar, baking soda, or herbal extracts. Gas masks and oxygen tanks. Some companies convinced people they needed to buy expensive breathing equipment to survive. Comet-proof umbrellas marketed as shields against toxic gas and debris from the comet's tail. Lead-lined bunkers. Some wealthy individuals paid exorbitant amounts to build underground shelters for their families. Sacred charms and amulets sold by religious and spiritual figures. These items promised divine protection. One of the most infamous scams involved Dr. S.J. Perry's anti-comet pills. These were marketed with grand claims, guaranteed to ward off cometry poisons and protect the body from celestial radiation. Perry and others like him raked in huge sums of money, exploiting people's desperation. Newspapers promoted these products alongside the hysteria they had created. By planting fear, the media drove demand for false solutions, creating a cycle where people felt compelled to spend their savings on these useless remedies. The moment of truth, when the comet arrived. On May 19, 1910, the moment of truth arrived. Earth passed through the comet's tail. People prayed, wept, and waited for disaster. Some gathered on rooftops, convinced the end was near. Others fled to the countryside, seeking safety. And then, nothing happened. The comet passed harmlessly, just as many actual scientists had predicted. The sky remained clear, the air was breathable, and no poison gas descended upon the earth. As realization set in, scam victims were left embarrassed and angry. However, many of the fraudsters had already vanished with their profits. They had taken advantage of mass hysteria, sold their fake cures, and disappeared before people could demand refunds. The aftermath, lessons from a historic hoax. The 1910 Halley's Comet panic remains one of history's most fascinating cases of science being warped into hysteria for profit. It demonstrated how fear makes people vulnerable to manipulation. When faced with existential dread, logic often takes a backseat. The media has immense power in shaping public perception. Sensationalist headlines fueled unnecessary panic. Scammers will always exploit mass hysteria. Whether it's an anti-comet pill in 1910 or a miracle cure in 2020, the psychology remains the same. Similar patterns have occurred in more recent history. Y2K bug, 1999 to 2000. Fear that computers would crash at the turn of the millennium led to unnecessary spending on Y2K-proof products. 2012 Mayan calendar apocalypse. Fraudsters sold survival kits for a non-existent doomsday. King Edward VII and the comet panic, a royal twist. The fear of Halley's Comet wasn't just limited to the public. It even reached the British royal family. In early May 1910, King Edward VII was seriously ill, suffering from bronchitis and other complications. Some believed that the comet's approach was an omen of his impending death. And on May 6, 1910, as Halley's Comet was nearing its closest approach, King Edward VII died. This fueled the public's paranoia even more. People saw his death as proof that the comet had dangerous effects. And fear spread like wildfire. As the British Empire mourned, scammers seized the opportunity, pushing anti-comet pills harder than ever. Newspapers ran sensational stories, connecting the king's death to the comet with headlines like, "Did Halley's Comet claim its first victim? The king is dead, are we next?" For those already panicked, this was the final push. Sales of anti-comet pills skyrocketed, as desperate citizens, rich and poor, alike tried to protect themselves from what they believed was a deadly celestial force. But, of course, it was all a scam. King Edward VII had died of natural causes, not comet gas. The Earth passed through the comet's tail without a single effect, proving that the fear and the so-called cure was completely unfounded. The same kind of scam happened during the global pandemic in 2020 in the form of COVID-19. Fake cures. Scammers promoted unproven remedies to desperate people. Ultimately, the 1910 anti-comet pill scam serves as a reminder that whenever fear spreads, someone will try to sell you a cure. So next time you see a wild claim about the end of the world, ask yourself, is this real? Or is someone trying to profit off my fear? The 1910 Halley's Comet panic was a moment in history where science fiction became science fear, and fraudsters cashed in on public anxiety. It's a story that should be remembered not just for its absurdity, but for the warning it provides about how misinformation, fear, and opportunism can work together to deceive millions. And that's the unbelievable story of the 1910 anti-comet pill scam, a perfect example of how fear can be turned into profit. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps support the channel and brings more crazy historical stories to you. Also, let me know in the comments what's the wildest scam you've ever heard of. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.